Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be using Paper Rose Studio's beautiful Savannah Flora 6x6 paper collection. I picked this up last year but never got around to using it. It's a gorgeous collection. I love the colors and designs. There are several sheets of cut-apart images included in the collection, and I will be using quite a few of them in my video. If you prefer the larger size, it's also available as a 12x12 collection, and I will have links for all of the products in the description box below. The paper pad includes 18 double-sided papers, 3 each of 12 designs. And the cardstock is a nice heavy weight. On a few of the cards, I'll also be using Paper Rose's Floral Card Front Gold. This collection is also available in the 12x12 size. There are 12 single-sided papers, 2 each of 6 designs. And as you can see, it has beautiful gold foiling on it. Each sheet is divided into several different patterns. Half of them have 3x3 images, the other half are 2x3 inches. Perfect for adding little accents to your cards. So let's go ahead and get started with card design number 1. I will be using some card sketches for inspiration. The first sketch is from Freshly Made Sketches. This is number 400. And if you are interested in any of the sketches I use in this video, I share all of that information on my coordinating blog post. That link is provided in the description box below, or you can simply head over to KristieMarcotte.com. For my first card, I selected 2 pattern papers. I have this lovely rust tone-on-tone pattern for the wider panel. And on the very top and bottom, I'm using this beautiful floral paper, and I cut this from the pattern paper that had the 2 floral designs on the top and bottom. This card will be featuring one of the gold panels from the floral card fronts. All of the papers are white with the gold accents, but you can easily add some beautiful color. I'm using Catherine Pooler's Peppermint Scrub ink color. And even after I add all of the ink to this paper, you can still see that beautiful gold foiling. I'll put some adhesive on the back and adhere this piece to the center of my card, following the design of the sketch. Next, I'll add one of the 2x3 cut-aparts. It's a lovely pot with some dried grass, and I'll adhere that to the center of my foiled piece. For a sentiment, I'm using one of the sentiment cut-aparts from Paper Rose's All Occasion sentiment sheets. They offer a wide variety of different sentiment sheet packs, and I love using them. Great for a quick card if you don't want to do any stamping. This is Wishing You a Fabulous Day, and I love that this set has the sentiment on black and also on white. I'll cut a fishtail on the right and left side. Before adhering it to the card, I am adding a small scrap piece of pattern paper to the very bottom. The very top edge of the sentiment will sit on top of the cut-apart image. Having that scrap piece there will help the sentiment sit nice and level on the card. With all that beautiful gold shine, I decided not to add any embellishments to this card. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. The second card features the same sentiment, but I used a different cut-apart image. For card design number 2, the card sketch is from Freshly Made Sketches. This is number 523. I selected 2 pattern papers for this card. This fun geometric pattern for the background, and a beautiful floral paper for the smaller element. I'll layer both of the pattern paper pieces on some burgundy colored cardstock. And I'll also layer the floral piece on some silver pearlescent cardstock. Put some ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. All of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size, 4¼ inches by 5½ inches. The main measurements I have provided on the card sketch are for the pattern paper. Then I add an additional 1/8 of an inch for the cardstock layers. For the 3 circle elements on the sketch, I'll be adding 3 flowers. The main flower die is from the Elodie Flower Builder set, and the center of the flower is from Leah's flower die set. I cut out the main flower from the same burgundy colored cardstock, and the center of the flower is from one of the pattern papers. After I adhere the two pieces together, I'll put some thin foam dimension on the back side and adhere all of the flowers on the right side of the card. For a sentiment, I'm using another cut apart. This is So Thankful for You. It was one long strip. I simply cut it in half so I could easily fit it onto my card. Before adhering the sentiment, I will put the scrap cardstock pieces on the very left side where the sentiment goes off of the floral paper. Then I'll adhere it in place using some glue. The So Thankful portion of the sentiment will be shifted off to the left a little more than the For You portion. Then for a final finishing touch, I'll add some clear crystals to the center of all of the flowers. And the crystals are from Paper Rose. I'll put some glue in the center, use my embellishment wand to pick up the small crystals and press them in place. I love this crystal mix. It works great for embellishments. There are 4 different sizes of crystals included. The crystals don't come in the small plastic container. I just like to use it for my small embellishments. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For card design number 3, the card sketch is from Sketch Saturday. This is number 413. This card design is similar to the first card I showed in this video. I selected this fun tone-on-tone green pattern for the background, and I'm adding it to some white shimmer cardstock. I'll put adhesive on the back and layer this piece on some green cardstock. I'll be adding one of the image cut aparts. It's 1.5 inches by 2 inches, so it is fairly small. I'll layer the image cut apart on one of the gold foil pattern papers, and you'll see just a little bit of that gold foiling around the image. I'm using some pattern paper for the 3 narrow strips that go across the card. On the card sketch, they're 3.5 inches wide. This rust colored design is from the pattern paper sheet that had 4 different colors. You would cut it down into 3 by 3 inch squares. So it wasn't quite wide enough to use for those strips on the card. But since part of it will be covered up with the image cut apart, I decided to cut all of those strips down. I cut 1/2 inch off of each of those strips, put some double-sided adhesive tape on the back of the image cut apart. Then I'll add all of those strips, putting the 3 longer pieces on the right side and the 3 shorter pieces on the left. And I'm trying to make sure to line all of those up so it looks like I have a long strip going all the way across the card. The card recipient will never know what I'm hiding underneath that cut apart image. Once I have all of those attached, I'll put some ATG tape on the back and adhere this piece to the center of my card. Then I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. For a sentiment, I'm using another cut apart, this time Thanks a Bunch. I think that works well with the beautiful floral image. I'll cut a fishtail on one end, put a scrap piece of cardstock on the right side, then adhere it in place using some glue. This time I decided not to add any embellishments. I want to keep the card nice and flat. I donate a lot of my cards to a local charity, and they prefer to have the cards fairly flat so they don't have to pay additional postage to mail them. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. The second card I used a different cut apart image and sentiment. For card design number 4, the card sketch is from Sketch Saturday. This is number 591. This is one of my favorite cards, but do let me know which card is your favorite. I selected this beautiful floral paper for the background. For the strip on the left side, I'm using some of the rust tone-on-tone pattern paper, layering it on some orange cardstock. For the strip that goes across the card, this is a very light, sort of peachy colored watercolor pattern paper, and I'm layering that on some of the gold pattern paper. Since the gold pattern paper isn't long enough to go across the card, I'm doing the same trick that I did on the previous card. I cut off about 1 inch of the gold pattern paper. Then I added the watercolor strip, leaving the gap on the right side. I'll adhere to the card, and once I add the rust color piece, no one will know that that gold paper wasn't long enough to go across the card. I'll layer the background on some orange cardstock and then again on some red cardstock. Sometimes it's fun to have the two different colors for the layers. Put some ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. This card will be featuring more fun floral die cuts. The main flower and leaves are from the Elodie Flower Builder set, and the gold stems are from the Dakota Flower Builder set. The small piece for the center of the flowers is from Leah's flower die set. It's fun to mix and match all the different floral pieces. The sentiment is another cut apart, wishing you a fabulous day. This was one long strip, and I cut it in half to match the design of the card sketch. I'll adhere that in place. Then I'll add the two flowers above it. I did put some foam dimension on the back of the flowers. Then I'll add the leaves and the gold branches, tucking them underneath the flowers. I wanted to stay with the colors of the pattern paper, so I think the red flower, orange leaves, and gold stems really worked nicely. For a final finishing touch, I decided to add a little bit of sparkle to the center of the flowers using a clear glitter brush from scrapbook.com. This will add just that tiny touch of sparkle. So there is my finished card, and I did make two using this design. The other card has a different sentiment, but otherwise it's the same design. Now moving on to card design number 5. The card sketch is from Cards TV. This is sketch number 42. This has quickly become one of my favorite card sketches. I selected 3 pattern papers. The very background features some beautiful planters. In the center of the card, I'm using some of the green tone-on-tone pattern paper and layering it on some of the light peach-colored watercolor paper. I'll layer the background on some black cardstock, put my card front onto a card base. Instead of the oval that's indicated on the sketch, I'll be adding one of the small cut-aparts. This beautiful floral arrangement on a brown background. I'll layer it on some black cardstock. Before adhering it to the card, I will put the scrap cardstock pieces above and below where it goes over the green stripe paper. Then I'll put glue on the back and adhere the cut apart image on the left side of the card. For sentiment, this is another cut apart, Hello Beautiful. I've already added some scrap cardstock pieces on the back side to help keep it nice and level on the card. For a final finishing touch, I'll add 3 black enamel dots, following the design of the card sketch. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. The other card follows the same sketch design, but I used different pattern paper, cut apart image, and sentiment since I only had 1 left of the planter pattern paper. Now moving on to card design number 6. The card sketch is from Cards TV. This is sketch number 43. I selected 3 pattern papers, the watercolor paper for the top, and a fun pink geometric pattern for the bottom. I'll layer both of those on some burgundy colored cardstock. Next, I'll add the narrow strip of green pattern paper, and I do have some double-sided adhesive tape on the back to adhere that in place. I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. I fussy cut out this beautiful frame from one of the pattern papers, and I've already stamped the sentiment Hello. The sentiment is from Paper Rose's Hello, Thanks, Fine Script stamp set. It's just a tiny stamp set with 2 sentiments, Hello and Thanks. I put some foam dimension on the back of the frame and adhered it to the left side of the card. And I felt the card was a little empty on the right side, so I'm also adding a banner of the gold pattern paper. And I'll adhere it just above the green strip. Using the same burgundy cardstock, I'll cut a banner and adhere it in the upper right-hand corner. I'll cut a fishtail on the bottom, then cut the right side slightly in at an angle, flip it over and do the same thing on the other side, then adhere the banner using some glue. For embellishments, I'm using more of the clear crystals. Put 2 on the banner in the upper right hand corner and 3 next to the sentiment on the left side. I'll use an embellishment wand to pick up the crystals, add just a small drop of Barely Art glue, and press them in place. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For card design number 7, the card sketch is from Cards TV. This is sketch number 9. This is a great sketch for using lots of pattern paper scraps. I selected 4 different pattern papers. I'm adding them onto some white shimmer cardstock. I started with the largest piece, then I put the narrow strip in the center, and finally adding the 2 smaller rectangles at the very bottom. That way I can get everything lined up nicely. I'll layer this piece on some black cardstock, then again on some green cardstock. Put some ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. This card design is perfect for featuring lots of beautiful pattern papers, and you could finish it off by simply adding a sentiment. I decided to also add some fun die cut images. Using Paper Rose's Feather Trio die set, I cut out 2 beautiful feathers from some orange cardstock. I'll also be adding the hello sentiment, and this set includes the word and also the outline. I used vellum for the outline and black cardstock for the sentiment. Glue those 2 pieces together, and I'll add the 2 feathers on the right side of the card, overlapping them just slightly. I love the beautiful detail on the feather die cuts, and all 3 feathers are different. When adhering the second feather, I'll have it slightly higher than the one on the right. Then I'll carefully put glue on the back side of the sentiment, trying to make sure not to have it showing on the vellum, and adhere it in the lower left-hand corner. Next, I'll cut out a small banner from the same green cardstock and adhere it in the upper left-hand corner. I call this my whimsical banner. After cutting a fishtail at the bottom, cut the right side slightly at an angle, flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. I think it adds a little extra interest. To finish off the card, I'll add some enamel dots. I'll add 1 underneath the sentiment on the left and 2 above the sentiment and on top of the feathers on the right. So there is my finished card, and this time I made a total of 4. I was trying to use up as much of this beautiful pattern paper as possible. It's always fun finding great card sketches that really help you feature beautiful pattern papers. Now here's another look at the 16 cards I made using Paper Rose Studios' beautiful Savannah Flora 6x6 paper collection. This is a gorgeous collection. I love the colors and designs. And it's also available in the 12x12 size. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links provided in the description box below. Paper Rose is located in Australia, and they do ship internationally, but you can also purchase their products here in the US, and I have provided links for both locations. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.